Hello, and welcome to Unfiltered Eat Better, Think Better series. This is where we get real about our emotions, mindset, connection to food, and healing, and what it really takes to break free and feel good in your body and life again. I'm your host, Janie Shah, and in this series, I sit down with everyday people who face challenges with their health, body, their mind, their confidence, or long held beliefs that have held them back, and found powerful ways to rise and grow through it all. These are real stories, no filters, no fluff, just raw conversations about what they struggled with, what actually helped, and how they created transformation from the inside out. So, whether you're on your own journey or just curious on what's possible, you are in the right place. So, here's to eating better, thinking better, and living a phenomenal life. Let's go. So, today we have a really awesome guest. Her name is Kerry Sneedon. And I just want to start with this. Sometimes the words of a doctor land like a life sentence for so many of us. I had this when I had Hashimoto's, and the doctor told me, that's it, autoimmune condition for life, and you're on medicine. And for Kerry, at just 28 years old, she was told by not just one, but two medical professionals that she would never be able to conceive children naturally. For many people, that would have felt like the end of the story, right? Like you take that and then that's it. But for Kerry, it kind of became the beginning of a deeper journey, one of healing her body, mind, emotions, and spirit. And for 4 years later on, she naturally conceived her children. And she's got two kids today. And she's the proud mother of two. And I had the pleasure of meeting Kerry at Mind Valley University in Amsterdam, live in person, but we've both been sort of wellfit coaches as well. And when she shared this story with me, I just knew that this was one we needed to explore together on this Unfiltered series because what she's lived through isn't just about fertility, but it's about belief, resilience, and the incredible intelligence as well of the body when we learn how to listen and to support it. So, Kerry, thank you so much for joining me and for being here. And I'd love to just get right into it and start this conversation with when you first heard those words that, you will never conceive. If you could take us back to that moment at 28 years old and what was happening in your life at that time.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's so awesome to be here with you. And yes, just to go back a little bit so that you can get some context, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this at all. But I grew up in a really big family. My father was one of nine, my mother was one of six. I had 38, well, I've got 38 first cousins. So, and
Wow.
we all grew up in the same suburb. We all went to, there was only two high school, one boys' high school, one girls' high school. So, you know what? There was full of people that you knew that was family. So I grew up with family around me constantly. And I knew one day I wanted to have my own family. I thought that's, I wouldn't have to worry. I came from a big family, I would have a family. So when the doctors told me that, and that's why I got two opinions because I always feel like you need a second opinion. When somebody tells you something, it's like, no, get the second opinion. So when I got that, it was devastating. It was absolutely devastating. I remember crying immediately. I remember walking along the beach and seeing families with kids and crying and thinking, why me? Like,
Mm.
why me? And I did, for a while I lost my faith because I thought, why can everybody else have children? Why can people who don't even want children have children? You start questioning all these things, and I started questioning my faith. I started questioning everything about my body. I started questioning everything about me. I started really, and like you said, it was probably the beginning of my journey because I hadn't really questioned anything before that moment. And so in all the questions, I started then diving in and finding the answers. And when the medical profession told me that, I knew that the only option they were going to give me was IVF, which I'm going back now, um, 26
Yeah.
years ago. That was hugely expensive and absolutely no guarantees back then. Absolutely no guarantees. So it was right, I think, at the beginning of IVF and the offer of it. And so it was not an option for me to have zero guarantees and have more medical issues. So then I switched and I looked at what else is out there. And I thought, well, I'm going to start studying some natural therapies. And
Yeah.
in my studies of natural therapies, of which nutrition was at the forefront, because
Yeah.
I knew that I had to get my food right. I really knew that I had to get my food right. But it was incredible because as I was going through all my studies, like to get my physical body into balance, I realized it wasn't just physical. I
Mm,
realized it was emotional, it was my mindset, it was mental, it was obviously spiritual, it was environmental. I was putting, different toxins into my body. I was surrounded by toxins. Um, Infertility is just, it's such a huge thing when it comes to trying to unravel and find out what works for one doesn't work for another. And so,
yeah,
there were people that I obviously knew as well that were on the same journey as me. And, I was doing what they were doing, but I was having zero success myself. So
yeah,
it really was unpacking what's going to work for me. Really,
yeah.
what's going to be my solution and what's going to work for me. And
Well, I want to pause a second there because before we move to the solution, was there, or what was it, what part of you was it that wanted to resist the doctor's advice? Or, I mean, was there a little voice in you? Was there a little part of you that knew this wasn't true? Or was it just that I've lost my faith, but how did you get it back? How did
yeah.
you start asking those questions?
Yeah. So I think once again, I'm going to go really back into my childhood.
Okay.
I was one of those kids that was really allergic to everything. So at the age of 3, I was allergic to penicillin. And then at the age of 11, the doctors told me that I had scoliosis, but there's nothing you can do about it. Just leave it alone. At the age of 13, once again, my scoliosis had got so bad that the doctors put me into solid back brace. And
Wow.
I had to wear the brace from the age of 13 until I stopped growing. So I stopped growing at the age of 16. That was a plastic brace covering my whole torso with a big steel pin up the spine. So as I was growing, the idea was to grow straight. But back in those days as well, I didn't use my core muscles. And so after being in this for years, I was 28 degrees curvature of my spine when I went into the brace. And when I came out of the brace, when they said I'd stop growing, my curvature slumped backwards because my core muscles were so weak to 25 degrees. So in my head, they had failed me with antibiotics because I was also allergic to cephalosporin and a couple of other antibiotics. So, like, antibiotics don't work with me. They didn't give me a real good solution when I had scoliosis. And so I felt that I had enough in my in my own experience that I didn't have faith to. Oh,
Sorry, I think we had a power blackout here. So Carrie was saying that you were in this brace from until you were going to stop growing at 16. And then you were talking about the idea was to do something.
yeah. Yeah, so
Okay.
so what the idea behind being in a solid back brace as you were growing, that as you were growing straight. So then you can't live with it forever. And when you stop growing, you stop growing. So then you've got to deal with a crooked spine. So what actually happened is when they took me out of the brace, because in those days they told me to stop my sports and I couldn't really do anything. My core muscles were so weak that I was 28 degrees when I went into the brace, but a month after being out of the brace and when I went for more x-rays, I had slumped back to 25 degrees. So, I had been through a good couple of years of really suffering through a solid back brace on me. And to me, that wasn't really a solution. At 3 years old, I was allergic to penicillin. In my teenage years, and then going into my 20s, they discovered I was allergic to cephalosporin and other antibiotics. So my body had rejected medicine. I didn't have the faith in the medical practitioners to give me a solution with my scoliosis. So I think I'd been given enough of, and then I'm told by two medical professionals that I won't be able to have children. It was like, I like I got to try something else here. I got to look at something else. And I did. I was thinking a bit longer term and thinking, well, if I get sick, I've got to find something else to help me because antibiotics not working with me. So I thought all in all, it would have been a good idea if I started studying some natural, remedies and some natural practitioners and, really dive into natural practices so that I can support myself and find solutions for myself and find answers for me. And I think
Yeah.
that was my biggest turning point in my life.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. And so many people that I've spoken to, it's when we start taking health into our own hands, when we start empowering ourselves with knowledge and information, that's when we really get the results that we want. And it's incredible that you were able to do that. Did you have any idea about natural therapies or any of that before this?
No, and I didn't have, I wasn't even sure whether it was going to work. I wasn't even sure if anything was going to work. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, now that you've asked that, I was probably about 22 years old when I had a spastic colon, and I was once again looking, for solutions.
Yeah,
And I remember going to a reflexologist, and she, put my bells back in balance or whatever she did, and I was having regular bowel movements. I was going, wow. So, and I didn't, once again, it was very rare. Nobody knew what reflexology was. It was like really unusual, but I had that experience and I thought, wow, that really worked. That really worked. So that was my only exposure to anything natural. Yeah.
yeah. Wow. I love that. It's when we just start getting sort of that little gut instinct saying, you know what, I'm not going to accept this. I
Yeah.
really do want a family, and
Yeah.
therefore I'm going to start looking for something else. You really had that. Would you say that was like a real strong want that you really wanted
Oh,
to have kids?
absolutely. I had a strong purpose. It was like I knew I had a passion. I just I visualized being a mom. I visualized having my own family. It was like I knew that that's what I wanted. I really wanted a family. So I had a goal. I had a vision in place, and it was like nothing was going to stop me at that stage. I was like, I was going to find solutions. If I had to study everything, research everything, it was like I was on a mission to
Yeah.
absolutely heal me because I knew that I really wanted to be a mother. Yeah.
Wow. And so you mentioned to me before that it took you 4 years of healing, and then you've
Yeah.
mentioned here that it wasn't only the physical that you needed to look at. So what were the biggest layers you had to work through physically, emotionally, and spiritually?
I think a big thing for me was I judged myself so much that I never ever actually loved myself. And when I went on this personal development course, it was a very intensive 5 days of reflective learning. So, really just looking at yourself. Incredible trainer. And it was like we would start in the morning and we'd just go through the night until everybody got their answers. Yeah, it was really intensive
Wow.
stuff. It was like he was not leaving until everybody, had actually moved what they needed to move. And I remember in this one session, they had portable mirrors, and they
Uh-huh.
put it wasn't big, it was small. There was probably about 15 of us on this course, and they put a mirror up in front of each one of us, and they said, look in the mirror and say the words, I love you in all your power and magnificence. And I couldn't say the words. I could not say. So I sat there, and everybody's now waiting for me because everybody has said, I love you to themselves in the mirror. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't mean it. I can't say those words if I don't mean it. It's like I can't. And it was just the unpacking of the layers of why. Why don't you love yourself? Why do you judge yourself? What has happened in your life to bring you to this point that you don't even like your own company? I didn't even want to be in my own company. I was always looking to socialize with others and be surrounded by others, and make sure that I wasn't alone. I didn't want to be alone. And so that was a huge breakthrough when I eventually said those words to myself and felt it and meant it. What really triggered for me, it wasn't this outside physical person that I was talking to. I was talking to my soul. I had
Mm.
connected deep through my eyes. I had looked into my own soul, and actually, I loved her. I really did. And I felt like so compassionate about the life that I had lived up until that point. And I felt kindness towards her. And I felt proud of what she had achieved and what she had been through. And then all of this good stuff I started thinking about. And it was like, wow, so I'm not so bad after all. I'm actually pretty cool. And that for me was an emotional as well as a mental breakthrough of huge proportion, of allowing me to accept me, know that I was worthy. I was worthy. And if I'm a worthy, then I'm worthy of being a mom. And if I'm worthy, then I'm worthy of actually, being healed. I can heal because I'm actually worthy of it. I'm really worthy of it. And that came from loving me. So that was
Yeah.
big. Yeah.
That's huge. I mean, that's actually bringing tears to my eyes because I resonate with that so much in everything that I've done in my health journey. And there's still this little part of me that keeps judging myself and my body and my shape. And this practice of looking in the mirror and saying that the first time I had to do that as well, it was so weird. And I keep telling my clients, no matter how much you want to change, the weight is never going to make a difference if you don't actually really love yourself, because then it's never going to be good enough, anyways. And so now it's a lot more comfortable to be able to say it to myself. But I get that, like, when we don't actually really love ourselves, it, you don't feel worthy of what's to come or what has been.
Yeah.
Um, wow,
Yeah.
that's huge. That
Yeah,
gave
no,
me
it was
chills.
it was huge. And it is same thing, Janie. It's one of the things that I use in my practice, in my programs. It's because I think I don't know. A lot of women are taught, not to be vain or not to look at themselves or not to, and not to celebrate themselves. And I live in a country at the moment, I live in New Zealand, where they've got something here called the tall poppy syndrome. And the minute you start doing well and sticking your head up above the others, people shut you down. And it's just like, wow, it's in the business world here, it's in the female circles. It's like, no, I feel so blessed when I get surrounded by other women that actually boost you up and pull you up and support you up. And I think that's probably one of my successes in what I've been able to achieve with my clients is I'm their biggest cheerleader. I'm the absolutely biggest cheerleader. It's like, I know you can do this because I've done that road. I've walked the hard path. I have had the breakthroughs, and it's hard and it's difficult and it's not easy. But every time you are faced with a door that is closed, you got to break that down. And when you break that down, oh, there's beautiful things on the other side of that. There's really beautiful things. So don't pull people down, really support them, love them into a healing journey, and they will feel successful. You will feel successful. It's just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I've been hearing so much recently, and I heard it at Mind Valley University as well, is that everything grows from love, right? If we
Yeah.
can do this with love, we can share with love, everything grows. And this is also really a big reminder that we're talking about issues that you had with fertility, and yet look at what we're talking about. We're talking about self-love, which some people like it's very hard to connect the two when you're just looking at it from a medical sort of perspective, but it
Yeah.
actually plays a huge role. Like all these different elements play a huge,
Yeah.
huge role. Could you share maybe some of the practices, tools, or lifestyle changes that you found made the biggest difference in your healing?
Yeah. The biggest, I think, nutritional change that I did make is I started eating raw. Now, I don't advise this to be a lifestyle way of eating, but I do advise this to be a healing. So I remember my friends coming to my house to come and visit me, and they would bring their own packet of groceries. I'm not joking. They would bring their coffee and their sugar and their milk and whatever they wanted, because I had none of that in my house. I had no toxins. I had nothing that was acidic. I had nothing that needed to be cooked. I had nothing that would lower your energy, so lower
Yeah.
your vibration and your frequency in your body. I had got rid of all of that. I had no refined sugars. I would eat fruits and I would eat veggies. I would eat raw foods. I am truly a South African. I was brought up South African. So I would also eat the raw meat, which is biltong and dry horse and things like that. So, that is still and always has been part of mine. So I've never gone vegan or vegetarian, but everything I ate was raw. Everything I ate
Wow.
was raw. I did not eat anything that wasn't raw. And I felt like that was when I had my highest energy. I felt like that's when my cells in my body were like bouncing off each other, and obviously did the most type of healing.
Yeah.
So for me, that was huge. For me, what was huge was calming my body.
Right.
So at the time, I had my own business. I started a travel agency when I was 25 years old. And so that was the first business that I started. And when I was diagnosed at 28, it was like I had to make a change, because I was working 7 days a week. I was working ridiculous hours. I had lots of corporate clients that I was like on their beck and call with. Like, if they wanted to travel somewhere, if their luggage got lost, they would phone me. It's just crazy. I became responsible for everything, doesn't matter what they were doing. And it was just too much. And so I knew that I had to make a career change. I knew that relationship wise, social wise, environmental wise, like I made big changes. I really made some massive changes, and they weren't easy changes. They really weren't. I know at one time, because I felt so broken, that I went very in, and I kind of shut off a lot of my friends, and I just thought I've got to do this inward journey and do this inward healing. And I didn't really talk to many people about what I was moving through. And I felt like, in hindsight, when I look at that, I would, because my friends still stand by me to this day. They've been incredible. I've still got those friends from those days, and yet I didn't confide in them. And I think it would have been, I would have had better relationships if I had, So yes, so there is things that I did that I would do differently, and that I advise people to do differently. But I made massive shifts in every aspect of my business, because I had a goal in mind, I had a mission that I was on, and I was out to heal me. And it was big. It was big. Yeah.
Yeah. And so nutritional was a huge, huge change. Were there any other practical changes that you made that you found really helped you?
Yeah. For the first time in my life ever, I didn't even know about meditating. I didn't have a clue about meditating. And I started meditating, and I started going to, I basically I got a meditation teacher. And once a week, I would go around to her house, and I would meditate with other people that were learning. And I
Mhm.
was on this whole learning curve of how to meditate, how to connect, how to do everything. And I would not miss that for anything in the world. It was the calming that my body needed after being so stressed, because I do feel like part of my diagnosis, even though I was diagnosed with polycystic ovaries, I had inverted uterus, I had twisted tubes, I had, like, there was so much going on. But I feel like a lot of it was because I was stressed. I was seriously, like, my core was twisted, including my spine. So when you think about it, my spine was twisted, my colon was twisted, my uterus was inverted. There was just so much that was just, I was holding on so tightly to life, like really so tightly. And that meditating gave me a chance to just take a breath and to go, actually, I feel safe. I feel
Mm.
okay. And that's when I started coming back into my faith. That's when I started believing that there is definitely a higher power that is on my side. It's not, they're not against me. It's like it's part of me. So yeah, meditating, nutrition, just building up some good relationships again, really just starting from the foundation levels, looking after myself emotionally, looking after my mindset, becoming a little bit more positive than what I'd ever been, because I was really, really, in quite a negative space when everything was told to me. So it was, yes, it was building up that positivity in talking to myself positively instead of pulling myself down, but really, boosting myself up, because, nobody else does it for you often.
Yeah.
You've got to do it for yourself. And so it was all of those little habits that I started putting in place really, I think, made quite a big impact. But it took me 4 years of regular good nutrition, good hydration, good meditation, finding the right relationships, healing a lot of myself. And yeah, and in 4 years, I actually had the most amazing surprise because, and I'd love to share this because it was because I had done so many pregnancy tests in the past and always got no, negative, negative, negative. And so what had happened is I was running at the time. So I had started doing lots of exercising, and I had done a 10K run, and I felt quite tired, which was unusual. And then a friend of mine that did reflexology, she did a reflexology on my feet. And she said to me, she said, Kerry, have you done a pregnancy test? And I said, no. And she goes, I think you should do a pregnancy test. And I said, no, I'm not going there. I don't want to be disappointment. It was like, it's too sad for me. Anyway, I'm driving home from her place and I'm thinking, oh, she saw something on my feet. She saw something. That's why she asked me. So I stopped in at the pharmacy and I got a pregnancy test. And I went home and I did the home test and it was positive. But I didn't believe it. It was like, no ways, I don't believe this. So then I went off to the local hospital, which was only like 5 minutes away from me. I went to the laboratories and I said, please, can I have a pregnancy test, a blood test? So they said, yes, but it takes a couple of hours before you get the results back. I said, that's fine. Did the blood test. So by this stage, my husband had come home from work and I said to him, here is a phone number and you need to phone this number to get results. He said, what results? Because he didn't know what I'd done during the day. And I said, so I told him the story. I said, I went to Corinne. She did reflexology on me. She told me to do a pregnancy test. I did. It was positive. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. But I went to go and get a blood test. You've got to, I can't phone. I can't phone. You phone. You phone, you get the results. So he phoned and they said, yes, it's positive. I'm going, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Let's go and see the gynae. Let's make an appointment. And let's go see the gynae. I was still in disbelief because of the years of, obviously. So a couple of days later, we have an appointment with the gynae and we go together. And the gynae starts, pushing and prodding and pushing and prodding. And he was an old man because he specialized in problems. So he was a very old gynae. And he starts moaning, you haven't been taking your folic acid and you haven't been taking. And I said to him, are you telling me I'm pregnant? Like, I'm still in disbelief, And he said, come, we got to do a scan. We got to do a scan. So we go off to another room and he's got this equipment there and he does a scan and I hear a heartbeat. And I just start crying. And I just cried and I cried because it was like, then that's real. Like, that's real. And so then he does all the little measurements and everything else. He says, you're 12 weeks pregnant. So if anybody knows, like, that's past your first trimester. So I had walked around thinking, I'm a little bit hard in my tummy. It must be constipation. Because I'd had constipation. maybe there's a little bit of constipation, but I didn't believe, and I didn't have, because of polycystic ovaries, I didn't get a menstrual cycle. So there was nothing else indicating me that I had this baby. And because of the disbelief over the years and years, it was like, I didn't even know. I didn't even know. But at 12 weeks, I knew that I was beyond safe. It was like, I'm
Yeah.
safe. Everything is going to be good. This is going to be good. And then, Janie, from then onwards, it was like, well, the natural way has worked. So now I've got to continue. So I did. I then employed a midwife and I had my baby at home in a water birth. It's in a birthing pool. And I did everything naturally that you can possibly do. I implemented because I knew this would be a great start to a child's life if you
Yeah.
can then do everything naturally. So I was breastfeeding, everything was like whatever nutrition I can give this child, I'm going to give this child.
Yeah.
And then he was 14 months old and he was a big baby, but I was still breastfeeding. But I'd actually said to him, like, I think it's time. Like I think it's time, you know. And but at that same time, I started having a really unusual menstrual cycle because now things had started kicking in and things had started
Mm.
coming back into balance. And so it was like, okay, I don't know if this is normal or not. I'm not sure. So I go off to the gynae, but now I've got a different gynae because
Yeah.
now that old man that moaned at me didn't work for me. So I changed. I changed because I'm gonna find people that work with me and for
Yeah.
me and support me, and I'm going to feel comfortable with the people that I'm working with, especially in these situations. Always get a second opinion.
Yeah.
So my second opinion, Gani, I went to him when my son was 14 months old.
Right.
Said to him, I'm having a really strange period. So he said, well, let's just do a check and let's just see what's going on. So he looks at me and he goes, you're having a miscarriage. I said, oh, well, that would explain. He said, but you've kept one. I said, what do you mean? He
What?
said, you were pregnant with twins. I went, what? And I've got one? He says, you've got one. And I was 10 weeks pregnant. And so my son was born first, and this was my daughter. So I
Oh,
just feel so blessed, absolutely so blessed. I obviously had them later in life because of everything that happened.
yeah.
But then she was 18 months old and I fell pregnant again. And by this stage, I'm 38 years old. And it was like, oh my gosh, is there a possibility that I can have another child? But I miscarried again. And then it was like, okay, you know what? I feel blessed. I've got two.
Yeah.
My family's complete. I had her at home. She was a water birth baby as well. Really quick. Both my children came very quickly in the water.
Wow.
Beautiful at home. I felt at peace. I felt safe. I felt like I was in tune with my body for the first time in my life. I felt I was living in the moment. I just had the most amazing, amazing experiences. So, yeah, I feel very blessed.
Wow.
Very, very
I can
blessed.
feel like, and I'm sure anyone hearing this can just feel that emotion coming through as you shared that part of the story. It's so beautiful that after all that hard work, this surprise just comes about.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
And that's why I'm
incredible.
in such awe of our bodies. I really am in such awe of our bodies because I know our bodies actually are always in healing mode. They are always in healing mode. Our bodies just want to heal. You cut yourself, your body heals. You break a bone, your body heals. The body wants to heal. So all we've got to really do is create a really good environment. Create a really good environment physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and your body will create the miracles that you're looking for.
Beautiful, yeah. I'm really curious though, what does it take to keep going for 4 years?
Yeah, yeah. This was, I think, mixing with the right people that also had a belief system. And so, when I started changing what I believed in, and when I found it was a college that I went to study natural health, it was like surrounding myself with people that also believed that was a way to go. And now I don't talk about like alternative health or complementary health, or, because it's actually not an alternative. It's the original.
No.
This is the
Yeah,
original.
it's the
So this is
original.
the original way that we healed. This is the original way that we lived. This is original. And so when you stop mixing with people that are like-minded, then my faith obviously started coming back in myself. And I thought, wow. So if that person could heal from that chronic illness, and this person could heal from this, and this person could, maybe there's a chance. Maybe there's a chance that you've got to surround yourself with like-minded people. And that's why the 4 years actually went by, in my opinion, pretty quickly, because I was studying and implementing, studying and implementing. And so everything that I was learning, I was putting into practice. And so as I was studying, I was going, what else can I learn about me? What else can I put in practice about me? And Janie, you and I are lifelong learners. We are
Yeah.
lifelong learners. So it's like, we're part of Mind Valley. It's like you're always going to be learning something. You're always going to be learning something. And so that was actually the beginning of me being a lifelong learner. But, when you've been given the diagnosis, I didn't put me on a timeline. I didn't say, okay, in a year's time, I want to be pregnant. It was just like, how can I put me back into balance? How can I put me back into balance? And so I feel the last little, the real last little touch that I managed to put on to my healing journey was a 7-day silent retreat. I had never spent 7 days in my own company, because when you're on a silent retreat, you've got to be in your own company. And so that was really diving deep into my spirituality, really connecting to my faith, really connecting to who I truly was, connecting to my soul. And I think that is what made the real difference. Because if I unpack my timeline of when I found out I was 3 months pregnant, and I unpacked 3 months before that,
Yeah.
I was on a silent retreat.
Ah,
So
wow.
I basically I did a silent retreat, and then kind of moved into the greatest healing that happened in my body. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow. And
yeah.
just kind of the last little bit, because when anyone starts going out on this journey, you start looking, you start searching, there's so much information that's out there that will come to you now. How did you kind of pick and choose what to do and try and start implementing? What were you guided by?
My intuition.
Okay.
My intuition. It was like, what feels right for me? And it might not feel right for somebody else, but what feels right for me? What really is the best for me? And so everything that I was doing, I knew it was right. And I tell you now, I am like, I always say, there's nothing stronger than a mother's intuition. A mother knows. A
Yeah.
mother knows. I never found out the sex of my children, but I knew the sex of my children before they were born. And it was like I knew, I was so tuned into my intuition, because my intuition had guided me to what I needed to learn, what I needed to implement. If you are in tune with your intuition, it will guide you no matter what you're looking for, no matter who you're looking for, no matter what life that you want to create. Your intuition will guide you. And I think that for me was something that I stuck true to for me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's beautiful. And everything that you mentioned around that is what can help really empower your intuition as well. Because sometimes it can be a bit clouded, you don't really know what you're listening to. But the moment you started working on nutrition and therefore healing your gut brain connection gets better. The moment you start meditating, you start to become more self-aware and so more in tune with your intuition. And it's like all of that compounded to really then help you listen to this intuition. Yeah.
Hugely. I always say to people, you cannot tune into your gut feel, to your intuition, if your gut is not clean.
Yeah.
So if there's toxins in your gut, you can't tune in. As much as the messages are getting out to you, you're not getting them. You're not hearing them. So yes, that gut brain connection is massive, and you can only do that with a clean gut. So
Yeah.
really, really important.
True. Yeah. So as we start to wrap up, two important questions. So one is for women listening who may be facing a similar diagnosis or struggling with fertility, what would you want them to know?
To have faith, to believe in this beautiful human body of theirs, to believe that if their belief is strong enough, if their drive is strong enough, if their will is strong enough, they will get there. They will get there. They will get to their miracles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Amazing. So Kerry, thank you so much. I mean, your story is such a testament to the power of not just accepting, the limitations placed on us by others, but even those we consider experts, right? These were doctors and medical professionals. But you've shown that healing isn't linear either, and that the mind, the body, the spirit can do incredible things when we really give them the right environment and the right support.
Absolutely.
So
Listen, I just have to mention, sorry, I'm interrupting, but I just
yeah,
have to say, I have got numerous friends that are doctors, by the way.
yeah,
And I love them, and they range from surgeons to chiropractors. So many of my friends are doctors, and I feel like we all have a place. So even though I'm a natural practitioner and they're a doctor, we all have a place. And so I don't want to knock the medical profession because they have kept people alive that I wanted in my life.
yeah,
But I feel we should all have a choice. We should be able to choose whether it's natural or whether it's medicine. We should have the choice, and we should be given more of choices. So really, that's what I want to get out there. I absolutely love what surgeons can do nowadays because they perform sometimes miracles, which is incredible. But it's also we underestimate what nature can do, and these are
yeah.
natural bodies. And so, we need to be in balance with nature too.
Yeah, absolutely. You're 100% right on that. It's we all have our place, and it's just to let everyone know there are options and there are choices, and you can find what works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as we close, I'm going to ask you a question that I love to ask all of my guests, and that is, if healing had a voice, what would it say to you right now?
If healing had a voice,
Mm.
what would it say? Well, I think it would come out with a lot of gratitude, and it would say, thank you for listening. Thank you for implementing. Thank you for believing. Thank you for taking action. So I feel that if healing had a voice, for those that would listen to that voice, there would be so much gratitude coming from healing. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Kerry. And for everyone listening, if this conversation resonated with you, helped you, or made you feel seen, please be sure to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And feel free to come join our free Facebook community, Eat Better, Think Better. It's where these conversations continue and where you'll find real people walking the same path. And if you're ready to go deeper in your own journey, whether it's having or healing your relationship with food, shifting your mindset, or breaking free from beliefs that are holding you back, you'll find more support, resources, and ways to work with me at www.eatbetterthinkbetter.com. So until next time, here's to eating better, thinking better, and living a phenomenal life. Let's go.